Tens of thousands of years ago, across the cold Eurasian landscape, our ancestors lived and moved. They sought shelter, hunted, and formed their communities, much like other human groups. From a ridge overlooking a vast, snow-dusted valley, a small group of early Homo sapiens catches sight of a faint smoke plume rising in the distance. It signals life, perhaps another camp. Among them, a young woman, perhaps driven by curiosity or need, begins a solitary journey towards the distant glow, leaving her kin behind, stepping into the unknown. Down in the valley, a Neanderthal camp pulses with life. Figures move around a fire, their shapes etched against the encroaching darkness. It is a world both familiar and alien. She stops, hesitating at the threshold where darkness meets firelight. The Neanderthals, sensing her presence, turn their attention towards the solitary figure, a silent acknowledgement of her arrival. No archaeologist can identify this specific woman. She is a cautious reconstruction, a symbol of countless possible encounters that shaped our shared past. Her choices remain hers alone. Her journey, and the choices made by others like her, raise profound questions about human connections across vast spans of time and culture. What happened next? Did Neanderthal men and Homo sapiens women have children together? If so, who chose whom? The answers may be hidden within the very fabric of our DNA. For a long time, the relationship between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens was seen as simple replacement. But the truth is far more intricate and connected. These two groups, Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, were closely related human populations. They diverged over vast evolutionary time, becoming distinct yet still interconnected. Contrary to old myths, Neanderthals were not crude or primitive. They were not apes, nor were they inherently less intelligent than Homo sapiens. Both populations made tools, expertly crafted for hunting and daily life. Their ingenuity allowed them to survive and thrive in challenging prehistoric environments. They both harnessed fire, a vital technology for warmth, cooking, and protection. Fire was a central element of their social and survival strategies. Evidence suggests both groups cared for their vulnerable members, indicating complex social bonds and empathy within their communities. Survival was a collective effort. Both Homo sapiens and Neanderthals adapted to incredibly difficult environments, demonstrating remarkable resilience and sophisticated understanding of their surroundings. Archaeological findings consistently reveal both groups possessed complex behaviors, including symbolic thought, cultural practices, and nuanced social structures. Modern genomic analysis confirms that gene flow occurred between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. This is a scientific way of saying they had children. These encounters produced children who survived, grew, and reproduced, ultimately passing their mixed ancestry to later generations of humans. This lineage continues. It's important to be clear, these children were not monsters or half-human failures. They were human children, born of two related human groups. Their existence proves that the biological boundaries between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens were permeable, allowing for successful reproduction and enduring genetic legacies. If their descendants survived, how different were these two human groups really? This question lies at the heart of understanding our shared origins. The encounters were not isolated incidents but rather part of a long, complex history of migrations, meetings, and shared territories across Eurasia. Imagine the vast landscapes these groups navigated, often following game or seeking resources. Their paths inevitably intersected over millennia. Modern genomes are powerful historical documents, revealing the undeniable genetic threads that connect us to these ancient populations, proving the intermingling. These genetic traces are found in many people living outside of Africa today, providing global evidence of the profound impact of these ancient interactions. Each fragment of Neanderthal DNA tells a story of survival and connection, pushing us to rethink rigid categories and embrace a more fluid understanding of human history. The most likely places for these encounters were across Western Asia, a geographical crossroads where both populations expanded and contracted their territories. The Fertile Crescent and surrounding regions of the Middle East also served as crucial corridors, enabling frequent, albeit sporadic, contact between groups. Later, as Homo sapiens moved into Europe, they encountered the resident Neanderthal populations, leading to further opportunities for interaction across the continent. Even further east, across Central and Northern Eurasia, the vast steppes and plains likely witnessed sporadic meetings as groups followed migratory game routes. It's important to remember there wasn't a single meeting place but a diverse range of locations and times over many thousands of years. One scenario might involve both populations following the same herds of animals, like mammoths or bison, across vast, seasonal grazing lands. Seeking shelter in the same valleys or rock overhangs during harsh weather or seasonal changes would also bring groups into close proximity, perhaps unwillingly. Valuable stone sources for toolmaking would also attract different bands. These quarries were strategic points in the landscape, often visited repeatedly. Their migration routes, following game or environmental shifts, would inevitably cross. These intersections were moments of potential discovery, tension, or shared space. Groups sometimes entered caves previously occupied by the other population, finding tools or traces. These spaces could become transient meeting points or shared shelters. Seasonal movements, perhaps to different hunting grounds or foraging areas, would dictate when and where encounters were most likely to occur. It was a rhythmic pattern. Some encounters undoubtedly involved avoidance, where groups sensed each other and chose to keep their distance, prioritizing safety and separation. Other interactions might have been characterized by observation, where one group quietly watched the other from a safe distance, assessing their intentions and numbers. There could have been peaceful exchange, perhaps of tools, resources, or knowledge. Bartering for survival in difficult times would be a powerful motivator for connection. Competition for prime hunting territories or rich foraging grounds was also a strong possibility, leading to tension and potential conflict between groups. Sometimes, temporary cooperation might have been necessary for tasks like hunting large game or navigating dangerous landscapes, blurring social boundaries for a time. Crucially, some encounters led to family formation, where individuals from different groups formed bonds and had children, leaving a lasting genetic legacy. And yes, some encounters may have involved conflict, ranging from skirmishes to more sustained hostilities, as groups vied for resources or territory. Finally, many interactions, whether peaceful or not, likely left no genetic descendants. Not every meeting resulted in offspring, or offspring that survived. Each of these scenarios is a possibility, reflecting the complex and multifaceted nature of prehistoric human interaction. Our understanding is constantly evolving. It's vital to avoid simplifying these relationships into a single narrative. The reality was likely far richer and more nuanced, shaped by circumstance and individual agency. So, how exactly did scientists first uncover this story of interbreeding? It begins with the fundamental principles of DNA inheritance. We all inherit DNA from our parents, a unique blend of their genetic material. This continuous transmission forms the chain of ancestry through generations. Our genomes are made up of millions of these segments, each a tiny record of our biological history, passed down from one generation to the next. The revolution came with the ability to recover ancient DNA from fossilized bones and teeth, unlocking genetic secrets from individuals who lived tens of thousands of years ago. By comparing these ancient Neanderthal genomes with the genomes of living human populations today, scientists found unmistakable overlaps. The discovery: many people outside of Africa carry a small but significant percentage of Neanderthal ancestry in their DNA. This was groundbreaking. Interestingly, different people carry different fragments of Neanderthal DNA, like pieces of a vast, ancient puzzle, each unique to an individual's lineage. Over countless generations, a process called recombination constantly shuffles and shortens these inherited segments. Each generation, the fragments get smaller. Natural selection also played a role, either removing Neanderthal genetic variants that were harmful or retaining those that offered some advantage in new environments. It's important to understand that the small percentages of Neanderthal DNA in living people don't identify a single, specific ancestor. It's a population-level phenomenon. Not every modern human population outside Africa carries identical amounts of Neanderthal ancestry. There are regional variations reflecting unique histories. Furthermore, gene flow wasn't a one-way street. Ancestry could also move between populations in more than one direction, making the genetic story even richer. Indeed, ancient Neanderthal genomes have been found to contain traces of Homo sapiens ancestry, just as later humans contain Neanderthal ancestry. It's a reciprocal exchange. Every time these two groups met and had children, they contributed to a complex tapestry of genetic exchange that continues to define our species. These encounters were not just biological events. They were deeply human interactions, moments of convergence that shaped the future of humanity. The genetic evidence paints a picture of a past where different human groups met, interacted, and crucially, shared genetic material, challenging prior assumptions. This shared inheritance underlines our deep connection, not just to each other as modern humans, but to these ancient cousins who once roamed alongside us. The genetic legacy of these interbreeding events is a testament to the fact that our family tree has many branches, some unexpectedly intertwined. The subtle persistence of these ancient genes across tens of thousands of years speaks volumes about the enduring nature of these historical connections. Every new ancient genome sequenced offers another window into this complex genetic dance, revealing more about who met whom, and when, throughout prehistory. The ability of DNA to preserve this ancient history is astonishing, allowing us to reconstruct narratives that were once lost to time and memory. But can DNA reveal everything? Specifically, can it tell us whether the mother or the father was Neanderthal in these ancient pairings? This question leads us to a specific part of our genome, one that holds unique clues about sex-specific inheritance patterns, the sex chromosomes. The journey of genes through time is not always straightforward. Sometimes, certain genetic elements behave differently depending on who carries them. Understanding the precise dynamics of ancient interbreeding requires diving deeper into the specific mechanics of genetic transmission. The story gets more detailed. It's here, within the very blueprint of life, that scientists sought answers to questions about the roles of mothers and fathers in these ancient encounters. To understand this, we need to briefly revisit basic genetics. Most genetic females carry two X chromosomes in their cells. Conversely, most genetic males carry one X chromosome and one Y chromosome. This pairing determines biological sex. When it comes to reproduction, mothers always pass one of their X chromosomes to every single child they have, whether that child is genetically male or female. Fathers, on the other hand, pass their single X chromosome exclusively to their daughters, and their Y chromosome exclusively to their sons. This means that across an entire population, a significantly higher proportion of X chromosomes passes down through female lines over generations. It's a key pattern. This unique inheritance pattern makes the X chromosome a powerful tool for investigating sex-biased demographic events in our distant past. Its journey is traceable. And here lies a long-standing mystery. Modern human X chromosomes contain significantly less Neanderthal ancestry compared to many of our other chromosomes, called autosomes. One hypothesis was that certain genetic combinations on the X chromosome, resulting from Neanderthal Homo sapiens pairings, might have been biologically harmful. This harm could have led to reduced fertility or even viability in the offspring carrying these specific X chromosome variants, causing them to disappear from the gene pool. Natural selection could have actively worked to remove particular Neanderthal variants from the human X chromosome if they were disadvantageous in some way. Another proposed explanation was sex-biased interbreeding, meaning that one specific direction of pairing was far more common than the other. It's also possible that several of these effects, from selection to biased pairings, were acting together, making the genetic puzzle even more intricate. For a long time, the exact reason for this reduced Neanderthal ancestry on the modern human X chromosome remained a significant unanswered question. Scientists needed more data, particularly from ancient Neanderthal individuals themselves, to fully unravel this genetic mystery and understand its implications. This leads us to a crucial, mirror question. What if ancient Neanderthal X chromosomes contained an unusually high amount of Homo sapiens ancestry? If such a pattern were found, it would provide a powerful, reciprocal clue. It would suggest a consistent, sex-biased directionality in interbreeding events. Scientists understood that finding such a mirror pattern in Neanderthal genomes would be incredibly significant, potentially unlocking a deeper understanding of our shared past. The X chromosome, therefore, became a central focus for researchers. It held the potential to reveal not just that interbreeding happened, but who was involved. The pursuit of this knowledge required meticulous analysis of increasingly detailed ancient DNA, pushing the boundaries of what genetics could tell us. Unraveling the X chromosome story meant untangling how genetic material moved between two distinct, yet interbreeding, human populations. Each generation, the X chromosome carries a fragment of an individual's past, a silent testimony to the unions that produced them, and the journey of their ancestors. The quest for understanding the X chromosome's unique pattern became a scientific priority, promising to shed light on a crucial aspect of interbreeding dynamics. It's a testament to modern genetics that we can now interrogate these tiny, ancient genetic fragments to piece together such a grand historical narrative. The silent language of our chromosomes holds stories far older than any written text, revealing events from a time when humanity was still forming. The X chromosome, due to its distinct mode of inheritance, acts as a special marker, helping scientists trace the specific origins of ancestry. The scientific community was poised for new discoveries, knowing that the next piece of evidence could finally clarify the mystery of the X chromosome. This quest would lead to a pivotal study, one that brought together advanced genomics and population modeling to finally tackle this ancient question. The stage was set for a deeper understanding of how Homo sapiens and Neanderthals truly interacted, seen through the lens of genetic inheritance. In February 2026, a groundbreaking study was published in the prestigious journal Science. This research finally addressed the X chromosome mystery. The study was led by a team of brilliant researchers, including Alexander Platt, Daniel N. Harris, and Sarah A. Tishkoff. Their work was meticulous. The team performed an in-depth analysis of genetic patterns, focusing on the genomes of 3 female Neanderthal individuals. This provided crucial comparative data. They compared the ancestry found on these ancient Neanderthal X chromosomes with the ancestry present on other non-sex chromosomes, known as autosomes. This direct comparison was vital to identify any significant deviations from expected genetic ratios, which could then point to specific historical events. And the core result was striking. The researchers observed a 62% relative excess of Homo sapiens ancestry specifically on Neanderthal X chromosomes. What does relative excess mean? It signifies a proportion of Homo sapiens ancestry on the X chromosome that is 62% higher than the average on autosomes. It does not mean 62% of the entire X chromosome was Homo sapiens. It refers to the proportional increase relative to other chromosomes. This distinction is crucial. This finding beautifully mirrors the long-observed pattern in modern humans: less Neanderthal ancestry than expected on our X chromosomes, and now more Homo sapiens ancestry on Neanderthal X chromosomes. Both of these patterns, the deficit in modern human X and the excess in Neanderthal X, can consistently arise when more encounters involve male Neanderthals and female Homo sapiens. This suggests a statistical tendency, not a universal rule. It certainly does not mean that every single pairing followed this direction of male Neanderthal and female Homo sapiens. Instead, the surviving genetic pattern appears strongly biased in that specific direction. It's a population-level signal across many generations and encounters. This new evidence refines our understanding of interbreeding, moving beyond simply acknowledging its existence to exploring its specific dynamics and frequencies. The power of this finding lies in its consistency, observed across multiple genetic markers and confirmed by sophisticated population genetic modeling. It's a testament to how subtle genetic signals, when analyzed with rigor, can reveal profound historical truths about our species' journey. This study does not just confirm interbreeding, it adds a layer of complexity, hinting at social and demographic factors influencing these ancient unions. The bias revealed in the X chromosome data forces us to ask deeper questions about the nature of these meetings and their enduring genetic consequences. This finding does not prove that all interbreeding happened in one direction, but it highlights a strong statistical preference in the genetic patterns that survived. The genetic evidence is clear: the most prevalent surviving legacy points to a particular dynamic, shaping the ancestry we carry today. This nuanced understanding of ancient interbreeding is vital for accurately reconstructing the human past, moving beyond simplistic narratives. The consistent imbalance observed across thousands of years points towards repeatable behaviors or environmental factors that influenced these ancient interactions. What kind of repeated behavior could leave the same imbalance across thousands of years? This is the profound question the study now poses. The answer likely lies in a combination of social, demographic, and perhaps even biological factors that steered these interbreeding events in a particular direction. Understanding these underlying causes can offer crucial insights into the complexities of human interaction and migration during these formative periods. The genetic evidence is compelling, and now the challenge is to explore the real-world scenarios that could explain this intriguing pattern. This opens up new avenues for research, integrating genetic findings with archaeological and anthropological insights to paint a more complete picture. So, why might the genetic pattern be sex-biased? The researchers explored several possibilities, starting with mate preference. Their models found mate preference to be a relatively parsimonious explanation. This means it requires fewer additional assumptions to fit the observed genetic pattern. However, mate preference in this context doesn't automatically translate to romantic attraction as we understand it today. It's a much broader concept. Preference could involve individual attraction, where people from different groups simply found each other appealing, a fundamental human experience. It might also be linked to social acceptance, where one group was more amenable to individuals from the other joining their community and forming families. Access between communities could also play a role. Perhaps one gender had greater freedom or opportunity to move between groups than the other. Status dynamics within or between groups might have influenced pairings, with certain individuals being more desirable or accessible based on their social standing. Familiarity, built through repeated, peaceful encounters, could have gradually softened distinctions and led to more intimate relationships over time. Group size could also be a factor. Smaller groups might have more incentives or fewer barriers to integrate individuals from other populations for demographic reasons. The movement patterns of each group, dictated by resources, climate, and geography, would create specific opportunities for contact and interbreeding. Social rules within each community, perhaps governing exogamy or alliances, could have encouraged or restricted intergroup pairings in specific ways. Unequal opportunities, whether social or demographic, could have systematically favored pairings in one direction over the other for thousands of years. Another possibility considered by the researchers was sex-biased movement between groups, where one gender might have moved more frequently. Perhaps Homo sapiens women moved between communities more often, either willingly or through circumstances like marriage exchange or joining new groups. Conversely, Neanderthal men might have been more frequently positioned to meet incoming groups, perhaps as scouts, hunters, or defenders of their territory. Differences in settlement patterns or territorial ranges could have created more opportunities for specific types of interactions, favoring one direction of pairing. While these demographic movement models were considered, the researchers found them less efficient at explaining the entire genetic pattern compared to other factors. This isn't to say that movement between groups was absent. Indeed, migration and intergroup movement were fundamental aspects of ancient human life. A third possibility is differential offspring survival. Perhaps children resulting from the reverse combination male Homo sapiens and female Neanderthals survived or reproduced less often. This alternative explanation cannot be completely excluded. Biological incompatibilities or social factors could have reduced the success of certain offspring lines. Natural selection could have acted on these mixed ancestry children, shaping which genetic variants remained visible in later generations, and which faded away. Finally, we must acknowledge the limits of our data. The ancient DNA record, though revolutionary, is still tiny compared to the billions of people who once lived. The study's findings are based on a limited number of female Neanderthal genomes. 3 genomes, while incredibly valuable, cannot describe every region or time period. It's entirely possible that as more ancient genomes are recovered and sequenced, the pattern could be refined, or even reveal additional complexities. This ongoing scientific endeavor continuously pushes the boundaries of our knowledge, with each new discovery contributing to a more complete, nuanced picture. While the 2026 study offers a compelling answer, it also reminds us that science is a journey, not a destination, with always more to uncover. Now, we arrive at the ethical and emotional core of this documentary: what DNA can and cannot tell us about these ancient human encounters. DNA can preserve biological consequences. It cannot, however, reveal the complex human stories, emotions, and decisions behind those consequences. DNA cannot tell us if an encounter involved mutual attraction, a genuine connection between two individuals from different worlds. Nor can it reveal if a relationship was a long-term bond, a lasting partnership that endured across seasons and years, building a shared life. It also can't tell us if it was a temporary relationship, a brief connection born of necessity, circumstance, or a short-lived meeting of paths. The genetic code is silent on whether marriage-like customs or formal social arrangements existed between groups to facilitate such unions. We cannot discern from DNA if individuals were adopted into another community, integrating into a new social fabric and finding new kinship. Was it part of an exchange between groups, perhaps to forge alliances, share resources, or balance demographics? DNA cannot capture such social treaties. Nor does it tell us if an individual was captured, taken from their group against their will, a harsh reality of prehistoric intergroup dynamics. The genome offers no insight into whether coercion was involved, whether one individual was pressured or compelled into a relationship they did not choose. The silent code of DNA cannot tell us if violence occurred. It cannot depict aggression, assault, or any form of physical harm during these interactions. Could it have been a profound misunderstanding of social cues or intentions between groups with different languages and customs? DNA doesn't record communication. Perhaps the relationship was simply a product of survival, a pragmatic alliance in a brutal world where joining forces offered the best chance to endure. These are profoundly human questions, but the answers remain elusive when we rely solely on genetic data. DNA is a powerful, yet limited, historical record. The phrase "who chose whom" contains deep human assumptions that the cold, hard genetic evidence simply cannot test or confirm. The genetic pattern may describe a population outcome, a statistical average over many thousands of years. But it does not identify the choices of individual people. If DNA cannot preserve consent, how carefully should we tell this story? This is a fundamental ethical challenge for scientists and storytellers alike. It's critical to understand that the absence of direct genetic evidence for violence does not, by itself, prove that all encounters were peaceful or consensual. Likewise, scientific uncertainty about the nature of these relationships does not justify automatically assuming violence or coercion in every scenario. We must avoid bias. Science demands holding several possibilities open simultaneously, without pretending to know definitively which one occurred in every individual case. The richness of human experience means there was likely a vast spectrum of interactions, from the deeply loving to the profoundly coerced, over such long periods. The challenge for us is to interpret the genetic data responsibly, acknowledging both its incredible power and its inherent limitations when it comes to human agency. Our narrative must reflect this scientific humility, offering what the evidence supports without overstepping into speculative social or emotional realms. The deep human story, the love, the fear, the trust, the understanding, these are elements that the genome simply cannot preserve for us. Those intimate details disappeared with the people who lived them, leaving behind only the biological echo of their choices and circumstances. We can honor their past not by inventing details, but by acknowledging the limits of our knowledge and respecting the profound uncertainty that remains. This ethical framework ensures that our exploration of the past is both scientifically rigorous and deeply respectful of the unknown human experiences. The genome remembers that two people had a child. It cannot remember whether they loved, feared, trusted, followed, or even understood one another. Given the genetic evidence, what might a shared childhood have looked like for a child with both Neanderthal and Homo sapiens ancestry? Such a child may have been raised entirely within a Neanderthal community, learning their traditions and ways of life from an early age. Alternatively, they could have lived within a Homo sapiens community, adopting their culture and integrating into that social structure, growing up among them. It's also plausible that a child might have moved between groups, perhaps spending time with relatives in both communities, experiencing diverse upbringings. They might have been raised by several caregivers, integrating different perspectives and knowledge from a broader family network spanning both populations. Such a child could have learned more than one tool tradition, becoming adept at crafts and techniques from both their ancestral communities, a unique skill set. They might have grown up hearing different speech patterns, or even distinct languages, fostering a unique linguistic richness and understanding between groups. This child may have known relatives in separate communities, becoming a living bridge between two distinct social networks, fostering deeper connections. These children could have been crucial for connecting two social networks, perhaps facilitating alliances, trade, or knowledge exchange across broader territories. Within their chosen group, they may have been treated as ordinary, their mixed ancestry simply part of the unique tapestry of their community, not a point of difference. However, they might also have faced social tension or challenges, the nature of which is completely unknown to us from the archaeological record. We cannot assume ease. It's important to visualize these children as normal human beings. Their biological ancestry did not make them bizarre, deformed, or monstrous. Their identity, therefore, would have been complex, shaped by their environment and upbringing, rather than a simple division based on genetic heritage. A child's identity may have depended far more on who raised them, the primary caregivers who provided warmth, food, and protection. The language they learned, the sounds and words that formed their understanding of the world, would have profoundly shaped their cultural belonging. Which group fed them, which community provided their daily sustenance and security, would have been a powerful determinant of their loyalty and identity. The routes they knew, the paths and territories they learned to navigate, would define their connection to the land and its resources. Ultimately, the community that accepted them, where they felt safe and valued, would have been the most profound shaper of their sense of self. All of this is presented as plausible reconstruction, built on careful inference from archaeological and genetic data, not as direct, definitive evidence. Our aim is to respectfully imagine the lives of these children, acknowledging their inherent humanity and the richness of their unique position in history. Their experiences would have been diverse, reflecting the vast array of social structures and individual circumstances that existed in the Paleolithic. These children, and their descendants, became the living bridges between two significant chapters of human evolution, carrying forward a unique blend of heritage. Their stories, though largely unwritten, are etched in the subtle variations within our own genomes, a testament to their enduring legacy. The exploration of these possible childhoods enriches our understanding of what it meant to be human during these ancient periods of profound change. Their lives, however they unfolded, ensured that a part of Neanderthal heritage would journey forward through the millennia, into the modern world. The ancestry left behind by these children was not static. It was continually reshaped and diluted over tens of thousands of generations. Through recombination, the inherited Neanderthal ancestry was broken down into progressively smaller and smaller fragments within the human genome. Natural selection also played a role, removing certain Neanderthal genetic variants if they were disadvantageous, and sometimes favoring others if beneficial. Many inherited variants simply disappeared by chance, a process known as genetic drift, as populations grew and contracted over millennia. Conversely, some variants became more common, either due to their adaptive advantages or simply through the random fluctuations of genetic inheritance in small populations. Today, different modern human populations around the world retain different fragments of Neanderthal ancestry, reflecting their unique historical journeys. Critically, no living person today possesses a complete Neanderthal ancestor inside their genome. It's a mosaic, a collection of tiny echoes. Instead, our genomes are mosaics, complex tapestries woven from many different ancestral populations and countless ancient encounters over vast periods of time. Neanderthal ancestry has been extensively studied in relation to modern human traits, with some variants linked to immune responses and disease susceptibility. Other fragments are thought to influence aspects of skin and hair biology, suggesting adaptations that were once beneficial in ancient Eurasian environments. Some ancestry relates to metabolism, potentially influencing how our bodies process fats or sugars, a legacy from ancestral diets and lifestyles. Still other variants are implicated in environmental adaptation, such as tolerance to cold or response to pathogens prevalent in ancient Eurasia. Conversely, some Neanderthal genetic variants may contribute to increased susceptibility to certain modern diseases, a complex interplay of ancient genes and modern environments. It's vital to avoid claiming every identified variant is either universally beneficial or harmful. The effects are often subtle and context-dependent. We must also refrain from giving specific medical advice based on generalized Neanderthal ancestry findings. Genetics is complex, and individual health is unique. Our modern genomes are truly mosaics, created by the intermingling of many ancient populations and the countless, often silent, encounters over millennia. This concept of a mosaic genome profoundly deepens our understanding of human identity and the shared heritage that connects us all. Imagine the child from our opening scene, sitting by a fire, unaware of the profound legacy they would carry into the future. That child would have had no idea that one day, scientists would be able to detect the meeting of their parents through fragments of DNA. The subtle echoes of ancient choices, desires, and circumstances persist within us, a testament to the enduring power of biological inheritance. The story of our ancestry is a story of connections, some planned, some accidental, all contributing to the incredible diversity of humanity today. The enduring legacy of these ancient children shapes not only our biology but also our evolving understanding of what it means to be human. Their contributions, passed down through countless generations, remain an integral part of the biological tapestry of our modern world. It's crucial to return to the limits of the 2026 study and acknowledge alternative explanations that remain possible. Firstly, the sample of available Neanderthal genomes is still very small. This limits the statistical power and generalizability of some findings. Ancient DNA preservation is also uneven, meaning we might not have a complete or perfectly representative sample of all past Neanderthal populations. Genetic ancestry can be altered by natural selection over thousands of years, potentially obscuring or enhancing certain patterns in the surviving gene pool. Demographic models, while powerful, inherently simplify the messy realities of complex prehistoric societies, making assumptions that might not always perfectly hold true. It's also important that several different biological or social processes can sometimes produce similar genetic patterns, making definitive conclusions challenging. The degree of sex bias in interbreeding may have differed across various geographical regions and time periods, and our current data cannot resolve all these nuances. One study, no matter how rigorous, does not definitively end the entire scientific debate. It's a significant contribution, but part of a larger ongoing discussion. The result describes statistical tendencies at a population level, not universal behavior. It's about prevalence, not exclusivity. Predominantly does not mean exclusively. It is highly probable that some encounters involved male Homo sapiens and female Neanderthals. These reverse lineages may simply be less visible in the surviving genetic record for many possible reasons, including population dynamics or natural selection. We must not, therefore, erase the possibility of these reverse pairings. The story of interbreeding is rich and multifaceted, with many pathways. The 2026 study's contribution is not the discovery of interbreeding itself, but rather the revelation of a stronger directional bias in the surviving ancestry. This nuanced understanding enhances, rather than simplifies, the complex narrative of human evolution and our connections to ancient populations. This topic, dealing with ancient human relationships, is particularly vulnerable to sensationalism and misinterpretation. We must approach it carefully. We must avoid framing it as Neanderthal men stealing women or Homo sapiens women preferring stronger males. Such narratives are speculative and problematic. This is not a prehistoric gossip column or a sensational beauty contest. Such interpretations impose modern biases onto complex ancient realities. Nor is it proof of universal male dominance, peaceful romance, or widespread assault. The evidence simply does not provide those details. This story is also not a simple narrative of one species replacing another. It's a story of complex interactions and lasting genetic exchanges. Evolutionary genetics can reveal broad population patterns and statistical tendencies, but it cannot reconstruct the individual motives or ethical dimensions of past relationships. The responsible conclusion is narrower and more precise. More surviving gene flow appears to have come from male Neanderthals and female Homo sapiens. Everything beyond that specific genetic pattern requires considerable scientific caution, humility, and a clear acknowledgement of our limitations. Let us return to our opening scene, to the Homo sapiens woman standing at the edge of the Neanderthal fire. She takes another step closer, drawn by an unknown force. The Neanderthal man, attentive and still, lowers his tool. His gaze is steady, observing her movement. No hostility, no immediate embrace, just a moment of profound recognition. That encounter, multiplied countless times across millennia, resulted in children who carried the genetic threads of both populations. These children formed living bridges, connecting two distinct forms of humanity into a single, complex lineage that continues to this day. The X chromosome, that unique storyteller, reveals this deep history within each of us, a testament to ancient connections. And from these unions came millions of later descendants, carrying a piece of that ancient story within their very being, shaping who we are today. This symbolic reconstruction, guided by science, reminds us that the human story is far richer and more interconnected than we once believed, a tapestry woven through time. Yes, Neanderthal men and Homo sapiens women did have children together. The surviving genetic pattern suggests this happened more often than the reverse combination. But the DNA does not tell us who chose whom. It cannot reveal love, fear, agreement, duty, conflict, or the precise shape of any one family. The genome remembers that a child was born. The rest of the human story disappeared with the people who lived it. Like, share, and subscribe to Glacial for more. What do you think mattered most? Attraction, migration, group acceptance, or survival?